And it's show time. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this amazing episode of PTF podcast with your host, Rohan. Guys, I have been discovering folks who have had creative journeys, who are essentially builders from scratch, and someone who might be an artist of some sorts or, have an amazing, inspiring journey. And with regards to this, keeping it fun as well as at the same time keeping it informative. Hey, joining with me on this episode of PTF podcast is Mr. Joshua, who is a co-founder of Ideally, which is an customer insights platform, a very buzzing startup in the US, originally from New Zealand. They have started in 2023, but the speed at which they are scaling, that's maybe one recipe we would definitely like to know from the co-founder's mouth. And at the same time, Joshua has had an inspiring journey so far with several of his entrepreneurial exhibits. And alongside, since I mentioned the journey is about a builder, Joshua is not only building an enterprise, but I got to know that Joshua also builds homes. Well, I am definitely interested to know a lot more about it. So let's move on and have Joshua on this podcast. Hello, Joshua. How are you doing?
I'm good, Rohan. Thank you for having me on this podcast. I'm excited.
Absolutely. We are super excited. I am definitely looking forward to learning a lot more. But let me start with this. You have been a co-founder for Ideally, and it's been close to now 2+ years. Very first question that comes to my mind, is this a good or a great time to be a founder of an enterprise? What's your thought?
I have to say great, right? It is. I think it's one of the best times to become a founder. You have a wealth of knowledge and technology at your fingertips. Things are easier to build than ever. And I feel that we have a new generation coming up that views things slightly differently and is looking to shake it up. So I'm all for now being the time.
Awesome. So Joshua, if you could quickly give your introduction for our audiences, and then, we can move on to getting to know a lot more about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, I'm a co-founder of Ideally, but before Ideally, I spent over a decade in SaaS and e-commerce businesses. I've always been driven by a passion to disrupt traditional spaces. And how I started my career was at Booking.com. And that gave me the opportunity to really disrupt the traditional travel space and grow Booking.com into New Zealand, where I ended up leading the organization. I quickly realized I had hit a ceiling and all the challenges that I could face, and I'm a sucker for punishment, so I wanted to go into the next. And that's when I took on a role in a prop tech SaaS business, and Rohan, that's where we met. I was actually reflecting on that this morning about how you showed me around the Meta office, and we went and got ice cream, and I remember feeling a feeling of a New Zealand startup having made it on the global scale. Then post that, I then met the team behind Ideally. I have two other incredible co-founders, Brendan, who is our CTO. He is an AI wizard. And then James, my CEO and co-founder, who leads our product. And I really aligned with the vision and what we were looking to disrupt. And so jumped on that, and here we are today.
I think that's a lovely introduction about yourself. One thing that comes to my mind is, as you mentioned that, you were leading a lot of spaces and then you hit the ceiling. Thinking from both as an entrepreneur or someone in the corporate, right? That is a tendency which many of us come across, right? Where you hit a ceiling and you are looking for the next growth or the next step. What are one or two practices that you inculcated over the years which help you, move the needle, whether be it on a single day basis or with a long-term goal?
I'm a really big believer in you're in your full control of your growth and what challenges you face. And right through my career, I've made a point of always ensuring that I'm upskilling myself along the journey. Don't wait for the organization to identify the opportunity. Don't wait for the next role to become available. I think especially in this day and age, there is so much access to rich resources that it's important to challenge ourselves to be developing those areas that we're both passionate about, but we also know will help move the needle.
And with a lot of like the global outreach or the scale, you have personally had an experience of working with organizations. I know we had met at Talkable. So what is one thing that keeps you going when there are different cultures? Now, when I mention the word culture, it may not necessarily be about the regionality, but also, in business or corporate, how the cultures differ and how have you been, molding yourself into?
I really love that question because I'll touch back on booking.com. I had the opportunity in my 20s to see the world through my role at booking.com. That got me to experience cultures that I potentially wouldn't have had the opportunity to do so in my career. And that taught me really early on that curiosity is key. And so through my career, I've led with curiosity. You want to make sure you're not the smartest person in the room. You want to be asking all of the questions. And culture, if you're curious about culture and also about ways of working in new markets, I think it is not only personally interesting, it also teaches you new approaches. And I think it also teaches you patience. That's something that I've learned, because if you grow up in one country and you don't experience other cultures, we're very fortunate in New Zealand that we're a melting pot of cultures. And so, that I take a lot of pride in. But I feel if you don't have that opportunity, it's so important to get out, because you start forming these worldviews and rightly or wrongly, you feel strongly about them. So I lean on the curiosity.
God, awesome. All right. And now that, once again, you hopped into a roller coaster where you had to kind of like start things from scratch. And I see that tendency where you are enjoying that adventure. If you had to maybe, describe a playbook of starting from scratch, maybe like, how is your mindset? Like, what do you think or plan?
Do you know, nothing actually prepared me for becoming a founder. I assumed, having worked in a startup and worked in SaaS, that it would just be a direct translation into the role of founder. But the things that I didn't expect, or I did expect but didn't expect the way it made me feel, were things like you no longer have that team of 20. It is you and two others. You no longer have the tech stack that you had, because you need to get contracts, earn revenue. You're scrappy. I've always been scrappy. I pride myself on being scrappy, and I believe that's also why I have made the career that I have. But don't underestimate starting from scratch, especially if you come from an accomplished career. It's such a polarizing speed, or shift in speed. So I always say, go eyes wide open. I think there's a misconception, especially within the corporate world, that startups are flashy, they're exciting, they're forever evolving, they're agile, they get to do fun things. But what you don't see behind the scenes is the 2 a.m. demos, that Rohan, we did across the world. But I look back at those times and I go, that's a memory for the books. I love that I rose to that challenge, and that you don't just stop because it's not a 9 to 5. So yeah, I've probably gone a little bit off piece on your question, but I think it's really important to just prepare yourself for that shift, especially if you are used to being a high achiever.
Right. Great. Now, shifting gears towards ideally, right? It's the customer insight platform for someone who is, non-tech, or just probably a startup founder who isn't much aware of how the campaigns and marketing works. How could you describe in like simple words what is ideally about?
Yeah, I love this question. I've constantly tried to refine this. I think I'm still refining it, so bear with me. But we built Ideally as a tool to support marketers to build the best creative, the boldest ideas they can do. And the way that we do that is we're enabling them to speak to their consumer and ask a range of questions, test a creative, test a concept, get that feedback overnight, iterate on that feedback. And to put it in perspective for those that aren't in this space, traditionally research is done later in the creative journey. So I will come up with a creative concept. I will work it with my team. I'll get it to 75% of the way, and then I'll hand it over to a research agency. They will go and test, and that could take 4 to 6 weeks. It could cost me tens of thousands of dollars. And then I get the results. The results could say, your creative is not hitting the mark. So what we've done is we've cut that time down into 24 hours. We've reduced the cost by 10x. And the purpose and the reason we built Ideally is so you can speak to your consumer daily. You can test, iterate, push the bounds, find the edges, and create something that's not vanilla.
And that's super important in today's time, right? Like with the competitive market landscape, I'm sure. What are the kind of customers that you're talking about? Like, who are your customers in like which domains or industries, and what kind of experiments do they like really?
We work with consumer goods and service businesses. So the likes of Danone, Asahi, Chobani, you'll know their yogurts, you'll know their beers, wines, etc. Right through to consumer services. We work with telcos, banks, insurance companies. And within those organizations, we work with the marketing and insights teams. So these are the teams that are fueling how that brand shows up in market, how they acquire new customers, retain existing customers, and be relevant to the audience that they're trying to work with.
And so basically you guys infuse yourself into their game plan strategy, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it's a new way of doing research. As I mentioned, traditionally it would be done much later in the process. But now if I'm a marketer and I want to just ask a question, I can jump on my laptop and do that and have the answer tomorrow from real humans. Or if I want to understand some new white space, Ideally surfaces where the opportunity is in your category. So you don't have to do these large ad hoc one-off projects. The platform's an always-on dash that will surface where you need to focus to be able to grow.
And I know that Ideally has been so far serving like 115 plus customers across the globe, right? So with this huge landscape, and as you guys have grown, is Ideally making sure that you are able to meet the scale at which your customers are, the customer base is growing.
I love that you just mentioned the customer count and then in the same sentence scale, because since we last spoke, Rohan, we've now clocked over 220 customers.
Wow, that is tremendous. Fantastic. Okay.
I think scale is a few different pieces, and I could talk about tech, I could talk about AI, I could talk about localized teams, but what I have really dear to my heart is the Ideally team. We have a collection of incredible humans, and I don't say that lightly. We live and breathe the values that we have as an organization. And when I think of the team that we have at Ideally, it is a team of A players, but it's a team of A players that don't have an ego. So no one wants to be the smartest person in the room. Everybody is curious. Everybody's asking questions. Everybody's challenging. One of our values is to be kindly candid. And that's something that's really important to me, because I want everyone in the business at all times to know where they stand. If there is feedback to be given, it comes from a good place, and that means that person is going to grow and we're going to have an even stronger team. That's the first element, is making sure your foundation of your team is strong, because startups are a lot of pressure. Startups are not only long hours, but they are, you mentioned at the start, they're roller coasters, they're peaks and troughs of emotions. And that requires resilience, but it also requires a really strong support network. So that's something we've put a lot of focus on. And so that's the first piece. The second piece is that growth mindset. So not only are you curious, but you're looking at your day-to-day and you're doing your job, whether that is customer management, outbound sales, marketing. But every time you're clocking in, you're doing your work, you're looking through how you're approaching it. Because of your curiosity and your growth mindset, you're identifying new tools. You're talking to others in similar roles that are in a company that's maybe scaled previously, maybe last year. You're learning from their failures. And so the one thing that's been installed in me from the chair of our board, Conan, phenomenal guy, mind on another level. I have a huge amount of respect for him, but One thing that he installed in me is have as many coffees as you can with new people. So no matter how busy you are, make time to meet new people, because you never know what you're going to learn, what experience or failure you're going to skip because you've had that conversation. And we're in such a connected world now that there's no excuse not to meet new people, to challenge yourself and to learn. So yeah, I know that probably is slightly different answer to probably what my CTO would say, but I truly believe that it's your team and how they harness their day to day.
And, since you mentioned about growth mindset, maybe pulling off the co-founder hat for some time, what are some of your maybe, daily or sort of like weekly rituals that you personally, have been following for having a growth mindset?
Yeah. My rituals potentially play less into growth mindset, more into resilience and stability, which then enables me to have a growth mindset, because I don't believe you can have a growth mindset if you're living below the line, if you're constantly in the weeds and you don't do those small things that fill your cup to bring you into a space of an abundance mindset. So my go-to is, I like to go to the gym, I like to do a class, I like to sweat and have loud music, turn my brain off. Even though sometimes it doesn't want to turn off, I feel when you put it in a circuit and you can barely breathe, that's usually the time it turns off. But that for me is a reset. I do it, I used to be an afternoon person, but now I'm a morning person. I get it out of the way. And I used to look at the people that would turn up to the gym at 5:30, 6 in the morning, and I'm like, what are you doing? Who are you? But now I'm that person. So I'm now the crazy guy. But no, it really grounds me for the day. It just means my personal sanity ticker, like that box ticker, is done. And now I can roll into the day. So that's one of my rituals. The second ritual is grounding myself through my baby, which is my puppy. He is a miniature dachshund. He is the cheekiest little thing. He keeps me on my toes. He does not care that I have worked a 12-hour day. He does not care that I've just hopped off a 17-hour flight. It is his world, but I love that because it just pulls me back into reality. So I guess what I'm saying is consistency allows me to have that growth mindset. It just frees up space in my mind.
Love it. I am an avid dog lover as well. What's your puppy's name?
His name is Boop. Like Boop, like Boop with
Yeah.
Because that's all he does. He's inquisitive. He'll come around and just boop you.
So when you spoke about fitness, right, does that come as a very ingrained culture back from home? Because, like I originally come from India and, it's where we speak and play a lot of cricket. And then, we share the same, like the teams and the wars that go along on the field. So to ask you, like, is that like the fitness culture comes a lot from home as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, Rohan, you need to come back to New Zealand for cricket sometime.
I will definitely plan that.
I think we're definitely a sports country. If you're not familiar with the All Blacks, you might be living in a hole. But rugby is our national sport. But I think more importantly, fitness culturally has really shifted, especially in the last decade. You will have seen the emergence of independent circuit training style studios. You've got like wellness as a category is growing a lot. I think also awareness of connection of mental health to physical activity is spoken about so much more, and something that is not seen as a stigma. So I think that combination of education, awareness, and availability has meant that I think my generation in particular definitely has picked up on that. But I think it always helps when, I went to an all boys school, which was all about sport. So when you're surrounded by it, needs must, you get involved. And if anything, it's actually taught me two things. Firstly, for me, the ability to clear my mind and slow my mind down. So that for me is really important. And then secondly, being in a team, being in a sports team. I know that analogy sometimes is overkilled, but some of my most successful team members have played team sports, and they know how to show up as a team. They know how to succeed as a team, and it's not about the individual scoring. And so I didn't think, Rohan, that I'd be catching myself doing sports analogies. I'm not the biggest sports guy in the world, but here we are. My team will laugh when they hear this. But I think it flows so seamlessly into business.
Right. Totally. Now, as a founder or as a high achiever, right? There's a lot of things that you juggle with your personal life, professional life, and it's sometimes super crazy. Recently or lately, what has been one of the, like a very happy moment or a biggest milestone moment for you in any of the space?
This is really timely. Yesterday, I found myself presenting to the global innovation team for one of the world's leading beauty brands, a New Zealand startup in the center of New York, speaking to a global multi-billion-dollar business. And those are the moments where I pinch myself. To be told in that moment, you are one of 2 suppliers that we are assessing. You are down to the final 2. I think no matter where you are in your journey, the same goes, Rohan, when I met with you at Meta in San Francisco. I had never thought, I'm going to grow this business, we're going to expand into the US, and we're going to work with some of the world's leading brands. That's not tooting my horn. That's just really just a pinch myself moment of just take in these moments, because as I mentioned earlier, the peaks and the troughs, it's not that we've won that contract, but you had the opportunity to be in the room. You had the opportunity to also pick their brain. These are some of the most incredible innovation leaders globally. So that's probably one moment that I'm still flying high today from.
All the best with that. I hope
Thank you.
Make it. Speaking about the drops, right, in life, little failures, or even learning, how do you reset when there's a failure that you come across?
I take it really hard, or at least I used to. And by used to, I mean last year. And if I'm being very open with you, it's something that I've been working on, because if you connect your dopamine hit, like your highs, to something external, you're going to continuously be let down. And so what I've tried to do is evolve that thinking into reward myself or associate milestones that are getting me to the end goal and get dopamine hits from those. It's not the end result that really matters. And so that's one thing I'm still working on, and that's a mindset shift. And I encourage everybody to go on that journey, because if you're relying on happiness from external factors, you're never going to be happy. The second thing is I write a lot. I came to realize there is a lot going on in my mind, whether it's work, personal, even outside of family and friends, personal around property investment, property development. There's a lot going on there, and it can be overwhelming. So I've actually recently just started a founder blog series. Very simple, but I just started writing, and it's incredible once you get the thoughts out of your mind onto paper that you realize how small they are. They're not these big, ginormous issues. So that's another practical step that I do. The other one is I'm very fortunate to have the team that I'm surrounded by. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We mock each other. We laugh. When we are feeling low, it's hard to feel low for a prolonged period of time, because somebody else is just going to say or do something. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up in those moments. Yeah.
And I second that. I mean, definitely having a group of bunch of people with whom you can goof around, that actually kind of helps you, release the nerves and the tensions that people are, right? By the way, so with the blog, is it already published yet? And if yes, what's the name of the, test?
So it's nothing formalized. I just released the 5th installment today. I'm just doing blogs on LinkedIn, so feel free to head over to my page. And I've really centered it around my relocation to the US and the expansion journey that I'm on, because in the lead up to moving, I had read a lot about individuals that had moved. What I really craved was the vulnerability, and I craved the elements of like, what didn't go well, what did you turn up expecting it to be, and what was the reality. And so I'm approaching this blog with full transparency, rightly or wrongly. It is also a therapeutic tool to just get my thoughts on paper. So feel free to check it out.
Sure, definitely. Would love to. And I would definitely post that particular link for your LinkedIn page on this podcast in the description section so that folks can also refer it.
Thanks, bro.
Sure. So, Josh, I want to know, like, what's so far your um, experience or, your opinion about US working with so many people, but also now that you're kind of like settled in, how's it going? What do you overall feel? What are the sentiments?
So many feelings, Rohad, and I'm sure everybody can appreciate just the landscape at the moment in the US. So it's an interesting time to move here, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless. I wasn't expecting I've moved to New York, and to New York from Auckland, New Zealand. I've always lived in New Zealand. I've visited New York multiple times, but living here is a different experience. And what I'm really enjoying is how many people I've met. People have a level of confidence and off the cuff conversation just ready to go. To put that in perspective, in New Zealand, we are kind, we connect, but we really keep to ourselves. It's not often that you would talk to a stranger. But here in the co-working space that I'm in the meatpacking district, the first day I put my laptop down, the founder across from me introduced himself, gave me a 10-minute spiel on locations where I could live and what to watch out for. Also invited me out for dinner with their friends the following night. That's something that just doesn't happen in New Zealand. And I love that because back to my point about curiosity and culture, it's teaching me to be a bit more open. I'm very much a homebody. I love my people. I love my home, and I relax. But I'm going through this era of saying yes, and so it's getting me not in trouble, but it's getting me into a lot of commitments. But do you know what? Like, being pushed out of my comfort zone is what I want. What I wasn't expecting was how overstimulating the city is. There is always noise. There is always something happening. If you need to get from A to B, you're doing that with hundreds of other people. That consecutively over time, subconsciously, is actually really exhausting. And so what I'm learning here is just where I can take moments and when I need to have a day where I work from home, or, at the moment I'm searching for a space that can be my sanctuary. But on the flip side, Rohan, what I'm also loving is the volume of rooftop bars, how many great martinis I've had. I went to a Warren G gig on a Monday night of all things, and it cost me $45 for a ticket. So you can't get that anywhere else in the world.
I would love to, touch on, since, AI is everywhere right now, how is ideally centered on the AI front? And as you also mentioned earlier, right, like you guys have been literally squashing down the timeline of the research work, which earlier used to take weeks into 24 hours. Is there any AI powered mechanism around that? So if you could give.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll split that into two parts, because as a business, agentic AI is the core functionality within our platform, but that is not an off-the-shelf tool. It is built by our engineers in combination with our research team, so that we've got all the research methodology, the rigor, and essentially create a research partner, but through technology. That is through every feature within our platform. Yeah, that without seeing the platform, there is a phenomenal amount there. Then what I like to also encourage, and this is for all businesses that are scaling or have the opportunity to test and learn, we've really taken an AI first approach within the different departments. Now, I know a lot of organizations roll AI out, but what's really important to us is everybody in our business is at a different part of their journey in adoption with AI. And I'm not talking about just your basics, like ChatGPT. And so we came to a conclusion about 6 months ago that we wanted to really embed it in all business units, get everybody up to a place that they felt comfortable with, and get to a place where they can use their curiosity to explore it further. What that means is also patience and making sure you're taking the team on the journey. So what we did is we did tools down, we did a full AI day. This was the opportunity for every team to go as wide and explore as many different tools, functionalities, efficiency gains. And then we brought that back in and took that information and then put it into a work stream where we started to implement the different pieces. And I got to tell you, Rohan, when you involve people in the journey, their adoption is so much quicker. Their buy-in and their excitement for what you're doing is definitely elevated. Through that, we've created efficiency gains between departments. We've reduced internal meeting times. I think also as a business, what we really want to do is make sure it's visible. So we've done all the integrations with Slack. So any external conversation that we're having, whether that's a partner, prospect, a ship, all of that is summarized, analyzed, and then fed back to the team to provide product feedback, to provide connection points, so that everybody feels like they're across what the business is doing. So I guess what I'm saying there is like visibility, bringing people on the journey, and not just expecting people to adopt, because they might adopt at 10%, but miss so much of the opportunity.
And I think this is a great idea where within the teams, they're collaborating, brainstorming, right? So it's like a real-time feedback versus a win that someone might come across. That's a good reflection of, Ideally's culture, it seems.
Yeah. The other piece that we've done is if someone wants to try a tool, they can go try it. They put it on the work credit card, they give it a whirl. We don't put roadblocks in place. We don't go, oh, you need to get a business case, then bring these stakeholders on a journey, because that bureaucracy slows things down. And by the time it's approved, there's a better tool or new knowledge. So remove those roadblocks, let people be curious, enable them to push the bounds. And it's quite fun watching people bring back their learnings and their recommendations and the pride they take in their recommendations.
Yeah.
That sense of ownership.
Exactly. Right. And I think everyone loves getting appreciated or claiming something that they have, ideated from scratch at workplace. So yeah, love that. So now, Josh, moving slightly outside Ideally towards the new, not new basically, but your second space, that is building homes. What is that about?
If you know New Zealand, you'll know that New Zealand is obsessed with property. It's just always been the way. It's where generational wealth has come from, but also it's been seen as one of the main ways to invest. Rightly or wrongly, that creates a whole downstream of issues. That's not why I got into it. I got into property because I'm innately creative. Absolutely love renovating properties that are just absolute tips. And to give you an example, I bought my first investment property when I was at booking.com.
Okay.
It was in 1970s, brick and tile. It was horrendous, Rohan. Horrendous. I also didn't know what I was doing, but I YouTubed, I researched, and I also just took a hammer to the walls. And at booking.com, I was traveling every second week for work, but every weekend I would set myself a challenge to renovate. And so I managed to turn this property around in 4 weeks. And that was new bathroom, new kitchen, take a wall out, new carpet, paint. But I thrive off that. I loved being able to have an outlet. And, the goal with renovation is always to make it look as good as possible, make sure it's sound structurally and good quality, but to do it in a way that brings a good return on investment. So I get to use my commercial acumen and my creativity and just physically get in and get it done. There's nothing more satisfying than getting your hands on the tools and just going for it. So I would encourage anyone that is either intimidated by renovation or not know where to start, just do it. But again, I learned by jumping in the deep end. That's where I operate best. But what that's meant, Rohan, is that's now become a formula for me in my personal life. So I know what type of property, I know what type of renovation needs to be done, the return that's going to happen on the region. Then obviously in this economy, not so good to flip houses, so holding on to them as rentals, and making sure that tenants have a beautiful, comfortable space. There's definitely opinions about people in property, and some of them are completely valid, but I choose to ignore that, and I choose to just do it because it fills my cup. I enjoy it, and I know that the product that's left for the tenant is good. Yeah, little side hobby.
I mean that's very interesting, because when you say in 4 weeks span you literally turned a horrendous property space into something which was, desirable and livable. So is it like you hire like contractors and teams for this, or?
I laugh, Rohan, because I thought I could do it all myself, except for the electrician. What I quickly learned is when I was doing demo, I took out a pipe, I flooded the whole apartment, it flooded the downstairs unit, I had to turn off the water on the whole complex. It was probably one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had. And a great, what's that?
I'm saying that's the way to learn.
I mean, I'm sure the neighbors don't want me learning that way. But here we are. What my advice is for the things that require expertise, like plumbing, like electricity, get an expert. So other than that, I did all the painting, the carpet, the demolition, all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are literally a builder. Like,
I mean, hopefully a good builder, but I'll let the tenants speak for that.
it's nice. So, along with this, has that all been in Auckland specifically, or like all different parts of like New Zealand?
Most in 2 different cities in New Zealand. So I've done it in Auckland and also in Christchurch. You'll be familiar, Christchurch went through a big earthquake. There's a lot of redevelopment, and that just created some really good opportunities to be able to give back. So Christchurch has been the focus market as of the last 3 years.
Now, Josh, that you have planted the seed in my brain to visit New Zealand, if you could tell me, like, what's a favorable time or season to really, visit?
So weather-wise, it's amazing from February through to April. Don't come in February because you will be there with every other tourist. Prices will be 4 times what they're worth, and scenery will just be crowded. So, that's why I got married at the start of May, because I was like, oh, it's low season, but it's still beautiful weather. You've got all the beautiful orange trees. So definitely come late March, April. Depends where you want to go in New Zealand. You definitely have to do the South Island, but don't jump on a tour bus and go around South Island. Get a rental car, go fly into Christchurch, drive across the Alps to the west coast, go down the coast, go inland to the beautiful lakes. It's probably one of my favorite holidays that I've ever done. And I didn't do that until I was 26. I didn't realize how beautiful New Zealand was. I was thinking to myself, how have I not done this before? But I hired a camper van, so I drove, I lived in the camper van. Yeah. And there's lots of national parks that you can park up at, pay a small fee, stay the night, do the real Kiwi experience, and don't stay in the 5-star hotels. Go in and experience it.
Or maybe a short-term rental that you might be already owning.
What was that, Rohan?
I'm saying, or instead of like a 5-star hotel, look for a short-term rental that you already might be owning.
I'll send you the link.
Sure. But no, definitely, I would love to, get the good itinerary once, things formulate.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. So
Let me know when you have that, and I'll give you all of the details.
love it. Awesome. Definitely will connect on that. Coming towards the end of this, conversation, so far, like since you have moved in the States, talking about nostalgia, is there anything that maybe, a place, fragrance, or something that you eat which takes you back home?
Yeah, there's probably 2 pieces that are nostalgic. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there is a very large Australian and New Zealand cohort that live in New York.
Really?
It's almost every 3rd person I come across is either mostly from Australia. Straight away that creates nostalgia, because I'm like, I sometimes try shy away from that, because I'm like, I need to immerse myself in the locals, but naturally we gravitate towards each other. Don't know why. But where I'm going with that is, what I love is there are a handful of Australian-owned cafes in New York that make exceptional coffee. There's even just one that's turned into a chain this is genius, because I don't know if your listeners have experienced coffee in New Zealand and Australia, but it's an art. The coffee is beautiful. So moving to America, where the coffee is 3/4 milk and 1/4 espresso, leaves much to be desired. So my happiness and nostalgia moments come from finding those little cafes and pockets, just taking a moment, having a coffee, and just yeah, it takes me right back home.
Fantastic. I love that. So, towards the end of the segment for this episode, right, I would really like to hear from you about ideally if there's any update coming or if there's invitation for maybe an event or something that folks can check out that you would like to share on this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rohan. I appreciate that opportunity. We are rolling out the next evolution of our product. It's a really exciting world first. We've productized a core feature that's required per category. What we now offer is the ability to understand your category at depth, but in a live dashboard. So what I mean by that, you can log into Ideally and you can see at any given time your consumers' emotional needs, social needs, where there's opportunity. So if anyone's interested in seeing and hearing more about that, we'd love to show you. But the other offer or last parting piece I'd like to say is if there's also any founders that would just like to have a conversation, that's less about Ideally. And I'm saying this because I really value those that gave me time when I moved to the US and when I took on the founder role. And so I just want to put that out there. If anyone would like to have a conversation or pick my brain, more than happy to. And you can connect with me.
Fantastic. One thing I must say, with this conversation, I feel another hour can go along, but I understand, with your time that you have taken off, especially in a weekday, I really appreciate that. It was a very fun way to, just know a lot many things from you, Josh. So thank you so much for all the time that you have taken out for the PTF podcast.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for creating such a comfortable space for me to be my authentic self. So I've really enjoyed it, Rohan, and it's always nice to catch up with you.
Yeah, likewise, and definitely my New Zealand trip is due, so I would definitely connect with you for the itinerary.
Sounds good.
All right, this was Josh, who has been the co-founder of Ideally and an amazing personality. So as you guys know, if you want to discuss with Josh on coffee, building homes, how to be a founder, or anything around fitness, that's the guy you want to check out or connect with. So I would be dropping the LinkedIn link for Joshua's profile on this description in the YouTube podcast that we are going to soon release. And this was one amazing podcast episode on PTF. Thank you so much to all of you for all the love, and just love the energy with which everyone has been, discussing and commenting about how we have been sharing about journeys of these fantastic personalities. This is your host, Rohan, signing off until we catch up on the next episode of PTF Podcast. Thank you.